Good morning, and welcome to News and Politics Today with Renee and Calvin, um, Boston Hill. We are here at Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM WBIS. And before you call in, because somebody's missing, let me just say that Calvin has a cold and I'm doing solo. So I'm looking for the support of our listening audience out there. 252-756-2008. And I want to say Happy New Year to everyone that's out there in our listening land. I'm not usually, I usually say, Calvin, do you want to say good morning? And he'll say yes. And so I'm going to be playing the part of two people. But it is 2023. A lot has gone on. I know a lot of people say, well, I'll be glad when we get out of 2022. Well, we are out. And I can't tell you about New Year's resolutions because I usually don't make any. I just live my life. I try to do good for the all and for people, and just want to just make sure that we are going to be having a great 2023. Well, I want to start out by letting you all know that there's a lot of conversation that is out there about um, wokeness. And I'm saying to you, listening audience, we cannot be asleep. We have got to use our voices. We have got to stay engaged. And we most definitely need to be awake and woke. Woke means that we are consciously aware of things that are going on around us. And in the political light, we need to make sure that we stay engaged because it seems to be that telling lies in the political arena is okay. And we need to have a voice that says, no, it's not okay. We need to make sure that people who are engaged in our political arena, particularly in Congress, that they have integrity and they also have a, a voice that we can trust. Now, one of the things that happens in Congress is that they are privy to a lot of private information. And we need to make sure that people who have access to, number one, being able to start wars, people who can also look at information that is so pertinent and so valuable that they should not be given to people who are out of integrity. We need to make sure that people who are in our Supreme Court, they can be trusted. We still have Clarence Thomas and his wife Jenny, who still believes and has been completely indoctrinated with the QAnon and the mistruths of life. She still believes that the election was stolen, and so are a lot of the people who we have in Congress. And one of the things in the Constitution, it speaks that anyone who was involved with the insurrection, who was involved with trying to overthrow the government, not having and believing in the will of the people, that we have a voice which is considered of also a vote, that once we get involved, we need to make sure again that when people are out of integrity, when people are involved with an insurrection, and it's in our Constitution, and one of the things that we said we were going to be involved with, this is a copy of the Constitution. It's important that we read and understand what this country was built on and what was meant by our fathers from before. So again, what do you have to say about that? Is it okay that we have people in Congress who have access to very valuable information? Should they not have to worry about integrity? When they take an oath, one of the things is that they believe that the oath involves believing in things that are for the will of the people. So this year, 2023, if you don't have a copy of the Constitution, I suggest you get one and we start to read it and we start to hold people who are in office, hold them accountable. We have, again, we have people now who will be sworn into a brand new year within a week or so, and they are going to say, well, I believe and I'm going to follow it. They take the oath, and then they go and they do their own little thing. And one of the things is that we don't want those people to have access to pertinent information, particularly if they were part of the insurrection. So 252-756-2008, give me a call. Um, because we need to make sure that that we are on board and we are aware of the people who are in Congress in Washington, the House of Representatives, the Senate, that they follow the law that is supposed to be in place. All righty. So, one of the things also we always talk about is the COVID. We talk about the vaccine. We talk about the flu shot. And again, people are still dying from COVID. Um, and long term COVID is something that is still prevalent. They are finding different ways that they can overcome this. So, but one of the ways that you can overcome and you can stay safe is by wearing that mask when you're going into places. And I was out and about this weekend, and I have to say that I wore my mask, but I felt so like strange about it because so many people were not wearing the mask. So many people felt that it was okay to be exposed and be out there, and that it's okay. And one of the things that people have not, and I can't tell you that I have gotten, because I did not get my flu shot yet, but I plan on getting it because I have some trips that are coming up. And, perhaps maybe you are not feeling, or you're feeling under the weather. And perhaps maybe you might want to give us a call at 252-756-2008. Now, we have to also be aware that the Senate is still being controlled by the Democrats. Oh, good morning. I got a measure here. Good morning, Donna. Thank you for tuning in. And what we plan on doing is making sure that we have an awareness. So okay, so I have to look at two screens now. Usually Calvin is here to support me with this, and I'm trying to maneuver by myself. So again, what are we going to talk about? Okay. So anyway, again, we are going to be reading part of the Constitution, because the Constitution says and lets you know that anyone who participates again in an insurrection should be expelled. They should not be allowed to be in the House or the Senate. And we do know that we had people who were very emboldened, um, very proud of themselves participating in the insurrection. We do know that this Friday, January the 6th, will be the anniversary of the insurrection. And the insurrection was something that was very frightening as far as we're concerned, because it was mobilized by President Trump, the January 6th committee. They put it out there that they did their investigation, and now it's going to be up to the Department of Justice to carry out, or to see if they should be getting involved with prosecuting some of these people who actually participated. And we do know that the people who participated, the actual people who participated in the insurrection, they are being prosecuted. They are going to prison. They are going to jail. However, the biggest orchestrators are still out there and still telling lies and still believing that they have a right to say that the election wasn't won, and that President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, they are not legitimate people. who are in office. So, again, we're just going to speak about the Constitution. We're going to be reading parts of it, and it's going to be important that you stay awake, you stay woke, you listen with the third eye, with the third ear, and you look with the third eye, that you do not sit passively by and not use your vote and your voice as part of being involved. So, we are now going to be speaking about the Constitution. And it states that we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States. So, what the Constitution says is that, and we know, and this is why we need to make sure that the people who are in there and they can support the agenda for President Biden, that means that we are looking forward to getting some of these bills passed that we could not get passed because people were unjustly um, unjustly not supporting the president. So one of the things that we are looking for is we're looking for the George Floyd bill that was not passed because they could not get enough support, and we have two people, um, Mitchum and Cinema. They are not supporting the agenda for getting these bills passed. And why would we want to have the George Floyd bill passed? The George Floyd bill holds police accountable. And it says that there's that no knock where they are able to bust into your apartment. They cannot do that anymore. And so right now they still can because the George Floyd bill has not been passed. The other bill that we were looking to get passed was the John Lewis bill. And why do we need the John Lewis bill? Because that all we need a federal, and these are federal bills that we need to get in place because they're doing everything they can with voter suppression. And the John Lewis bill, it would not allow um, it would not allow people to to put these voter suppressions laws in state by state, and that the laws and the bills would be passed based on the fact that we, the federal government, and was able to introduce some of these bills, and they were able to get them passed. Now, one of the other bills that we were talking about was going to be the HR1 bill. And again, they will probably have to change the names of these bills, but the HR1 bill was to speak about the dark money. We know now that if you wanted to run a race, it would have to be it's a very expensive task because number one, you have people who are backing these candidates, and maybe the candidate themselves would not put negative campaign ads out on TV. However, these supporting groups are putting these negative ads on the TV. So again, why do we care? Well, we should care because, again, all these, even if you say, well, listen, I voted and that you think that's all you have to do. No, today is more than that. Not only do we need to have the vote, but your vote, but we also need to have your voice. So we're asking that you participate. Now, again, if you're only seeing one person today, Calvin is out sick. He came down with a cold, and he's taking care of himself, and that's what we really want to do. But I could use your support out there by calling 252-756-2008. Perhaps maybe you made some commitments for 2023. Maybe you're looking forward to something coming your way for 2023, and we just want to make sure that your voice be heard and that you support. And it's important. Some of the things that the news is talking about. They're talking about Clarence Thomas and how he supports his wife Jenny. We're talking about this latest person who got elected into Congress, and he everything on his resume was a complete lie, and he is now going to have access to all kinds of informations. If they put him on committees, he'll be able to make decisions. But who is he making those decisions for? Who supported his campaign to let him get elected? And now that he's going to be in the House, what now is it going to be that he's going to be put on committees to be able to make decisions that have a direct impact on our life? So we have to make sure that we stay again involved and engaged. And one of the things that I wanted to speak about for 2023 is that we have to make sure that we get support for the various campaigns. So so anyway, we're going to continue to talk, and we're going to work. We know that we got through the general election. We know that that we won't have any regrets, because we participated in doing various things. So one of the things that we're going to speak about for 2023 again is supporting the government, supporting democracy, understanding that there's a threat on our democracy, and how important it is that we also stay engaged. And one of the ways that we can do that is by using the 5 caller apps. That's something that I always speak about, because even though we have people in our state, our General Assembly, in our Congress, that don't necessarily agree with our thoughts and our wishes, well, that's why we need to call them and let them know what our thoughts and our concerns are. So again, thank you for your support, and we are going to make sure that we stay engaged and we stay, concerned and involved. Now, I do want to talk about also that 2023, if we don't um, if we don't get people and have people in our Congress that supports Biden's agenda, that means that the things that he did to pass, they can rescind on them, or they can because a lot of things he had to do by executive order. And we need to make sure that we stay involved and we stay concerned about the president's agenda, because one of the things that he was trying to get passed, and there's still a hold on it, and he's extended student loans. Now, if you have a student loan or you have loans, $10,000 can maybe wipe out your student loans. Or if you have some grant money that was put in there, he's willing to forgive up to 20,000. Now, people will say, well, that's not enough, because it costs me so much money to go to college. Well, something is better than nothing. And I think this is just the first step, that he's going to be reducing more student loans. Now, we do know that one of the things that we have to stay woke, and now there's conversation out about that, is that how we as Black people, we cannot afford a lot of things because of it. We're burdened with this debt. And so, since we are burdened with the debt, how do we now overcome it so that we can be homeowners? How do we now stop appraisers coming in to appraise our property for less than what it is? These are all the things that we have to make sure we are engaged and involved with. So, student loans is something that can help us to do better, to get more out of life. And the part of it is also is that you might say, well, I don't. This is not having a direct impact, but it could possibly have a direct impact on your family and your children. So we are going to make sure that when we come back from our break, which is about to happen, our first break, um, we are going to make sure that you'll be here with Awesome Radio. Talk to you after the break.
And now, Fastened Like Nails with Dr. Mark Hamby.
David and Hushai. Hushai was willing to stick closer than a brother. So, Colin, I think it would be good for our listeners to really know what is a true friend with Hushai and David.
Yeah, so the story of Hushai and David, it's a story about the mutual role that friends have for each other, the responsibilities we have towards each other, like a shepherd has with his sheep. You know, you're supposed to see yourself as your friend's shepherd and your friend as your shepherd. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to protect your friends. You're supposed to provide for them, have companionship, compassion on them, look over them, but not bully them or boss them, but a loving kind of an oversight over them. So when a friend's not around, you speak well of them and you encourage them and you care for them. And that's one of the values of friendship. You do that for each other. And
beautiful.
That's what Jesus is for us. And that's what we're supposed to be for each other.
Colin, that is just a beautiful picture of what true friendship is all about. Caring for one another, protecting one another. I like what you said, protecting that person's name when they're not around. That takes courage.
It does. And it takes loyalty. And it takes more than courage and loyalty. It takes a self-sacrificing love, an abiding love, a kind of love that you have for someone that doesn't fade away.
That is what a true friend does. You know, build them up, show them that I care, protecting, being encouragement. I think that's important for all of us.
You've been listening to an excerpt of Fastened Like Nails, a presentation of Lamplighter Ministries. Our mission is to make ready a people prepared for the Lord by building Christ-like character, one story at a time. To learn more about our family collection of rare books, dramatic audios, or guild programs, visit fastenedlikenails.net. That's fastenedlikenails.net.
We're 106.9 on your FM dial. Awesome Radio.
Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the hosts, any guests, and speakers, and do not necessarily reflect the views and beliefs of this station, Awesome Radio, its parent company, Community Care Fellowship, nor its affiliates and underwriters. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the content of this program should be directed to the host. This is a disclaimer.
And welcome back to News and Politics Today with Renee and Calvin Boston Hill. We are here at Awesome Radio, 106.9 FM WBISLP. And Calvin is not with us today because he's home nursing a cold and he's taking care of himself, which is a good thing. Nobody needs to usher in colds for 2023 because we need to make sure that we do what we can to be healthy. And so, Calvin, again, feel better. I am missing you bad, but I'm a trooper. I'm going to hang in there and do the best that I can representing both of us. So our call-in number is 252-756-2008. And just remember that perhaps maybe there's a focus that you want on for 2023. You can feel free to give us a call and let us know how you feel about this. So again, I was just trying to let you know some of the things that I felt is important. And one of the things that I think is very important is our representation. And when we speak about our representation, we elect people who, as far as we're concerned, they think like the way, or they think like us in the way that they're going to go there and vote for things that will make a difference in our lives. However, sometimes people who you want to be there to represent you, they don't win an election. So that means that there are other people put in place to they're going to want to get their agenda for their constituents, get them through. However, it doesn't mean that you remain silent and that you don't tell people exactly how you're feeling. And so it's so important that we continue to have our voices heard. And when once we vote and the person is elected and they're going to be sworn in, it doesn't mean that our job is done and that we should just go about our daily lives, because our daily lives are impacted and directly affected by people who are put in Congress, okay, in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, that they need to know exactly what our issues and our concerns are. And it's going to be more important because the House of Representatives are now going to be controlled and put in, and people have been put there who were part of the insurrection. And remember, the insurrection happened January the 6th. That is coming up. January 6th is coming up in the next few days. And they did not necessarily succeed in doing the insurrection and making and putting people in place that they wanted to, versus the voice of the people of the vote. So you want to make sure that when you vote, that no one can overturn your vote. No one can say that your vote is fraudulent, because you, the people, went there and you stood online and you want your vote to be counted. Now, just because the insurrection, people are being arrested, people are being held accountable for their actions, it doesn't mean that it won't happen again. So, again, you must stay awake, you must stay woke, you must listen to conversations that are going on around you, because those conversations could be things that if you hear it, that doesn't mean you should not say anything about it. One of the things also is the gun control. Control is very, very important. We need to make sure that laws are put in place so that people or kids who are 18 cannot go and buy a gun. And when they do get these guns and they do the mass shootings, this, again, whether you are involved with it directly, it has an impact on your life, because when you think about how people are being murdered, okay, and people are saying that it's okay that because of who is judging them, they are supporting their actions. So what am I saying? I'm saying that gun control is something that we must keep in the forefront. There are so many guns that are out there, and people are selling guns to kids, basically, who think it's okay to go into a school, go into a supermarket, and just start killing people randomly, people who did nothing to them. And you think about our babies and how we entrust them to go to school, and now they're on break and they'll be returning to school. We need to make sure that guns are not brought into the schools. I'm against teachers carrying weapons. All I'm saying is that we need to make sure that the people who have these guns, they know how to treat them and handle them respectfully. Again, you cannot take away a gun, or you can if it's an illegal gun, but there are so many guns that are out there. And again, our lives are important. Our children's lives are important. And when we give the responsibility of our children over to schools, we need to make sure that they are there and they are safe. I do know that some of the children are feeling like, am I going to be okay? They are practicing, or have them practicing how to act if it's an active shooter on the grounds or around the grounds. And this is a frightening time. Not only are we concerned about gun control, but we're also concerned about people control. Is it fair, or is it okay that people can walk around and abuse people? People who take guns and they go and they murder people, is that okay? No, it's not okay. And we have to make sure that laws are put in place to hold these people accountable for taking lives, and also preventing people who get guns that are not, and without background checks. People don't want to do background checks, but if they did, before they sold guns to people, certain people, they would know that guns are not good. One of the other things that I've been reading over the holiday was drugs and weapons happen to go sometimes together because, again, people who are unstable, they are also sometimes using these drugs called fentanyl. One of the things I was just trying to figure out what fentanyl is, and I got a little idea, but children, like babies, a couple of them for like 2 years old, they got a hold of their parents' drugs. The parents are irresponsible using these types of drugs when they know they have children in the home. So we are going to make sure that we do everything that we can to make sure that these drugs are not being around children or being around where it could harm not only themselves. And again, um, how are these drugs coming into the country? Well, there's a lot of ways that they're saying, and there's a lot of ways that people are willing to take a risk to bring the drugs into this country. So again, wake up, okay, stay woke, and just remember that the insurrection can happen again, and we need to make sure that guns that are being sold to responsible people. So again, you want to let your representative know that I want to make sure that if anybody's going to sell a gun, that they do something to make sure that it's going into a responsible hand. And we want to make sure that we teach our children to be responsible. We teach our children that, okay, fine, you want a gun? Well, tell me why you want the gun. What do you want to do with it? Why do you think you need it? You don't need an AR gun to go hunting. You don't need an AR gun just to have say I have it and then to maybe go out and use it. So again, you can talk to your representatives and say we need some responsible gun laws put here. We need to make sure that the drugs that are being sent and brought into this country, that people understand that they could die by using them. So those are some of the things that I said I want to make sure happens in 2023. I need to make sure George Floyd bill is passed. I need to make sure that the John Lewis bill is passed. And we need to make sure that we're coming up for another break. And I will be right back here at Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. This is News and Politics Today with Renee Boston Hill, hoping that my husband is going to be better by the time I get home. Otherwise, I'll be making some chicken soup. Chicken soup for the soul. And again, we're taking that break.
I'm Miriam Neff with New Beginnings. Most of us either see a few mountains we have to climb this year, or at least a few hills. God's people in the wilderness had several. They were to enter and possess a new land. God directed the first move, send in people to assess the situation, Numbers 13. 12 went, saw, and reported back, some with evidence. 10 saw the land and people as too tough to conquer. 2 saw through eyes of faith and knew God would conquer using them. Caleb and Joshua brought back a huge bunch of grapes and other produce. Advice for us today: assess our mountains and hills. Lay that before the Lord, asking Him for direction. Caleb and Joshua entered the land, and they were able to enjoy rich produce from trusting God.
This feature at widowconnection.com.
Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the hosts, any guests, and speakers, and do not necessarily reflect the views and beliefs of this station, Awesome Radio, its parent company, Community Care Fellowship, nor its affiliates and underwriters. Any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the content of this program should be directed to the host. This is a disclaimer.
All right. Ooh, yeah. Wow. Oh, yeah. Here we go, y'all. Sing a little message out to those of y'all who feel like you're struggling.
And welcome back to News and Politics Today with Renee and Calvin Boston Hill. I am here, your host, Renee Boston Hill, and just wanting and putting through our show. Calvin, again, if you're just tuning in, he's out sick today, and I hope he does feel better. And I'll be going home to make some homemade chicken soup, which is for the health, for the soul, and for to make sure that Calvin will get better. Now, one of the things that we were talking about is that the things that President Biden has been able to achieve and accomplish, and one of the things that's important for us to make sure is that he's able to get his agenda through. Now we know that um, President Trump, he was out there supporting different candidates, and most of the candidates that he was promoting and encouraging people to vote for, they didn't win. And the reason why was that one of the main things that was on the ballot was democracy. Now, we want to make sure that when we go to vote, that our vote gets counted and that no one can switch it and say, well, listen, I don't like the way this election has turned out. I'm now going to put in place people who I want to be there. And if they're not, if it's an elected position, no, the will of the people should be what goes. And so one of the things again that I did say we're going to talk about, but it's just difficult for me to read and to talk at the same time, is the Constitution. This is a copy of the Constitution. This is now going to be my main one of my things that I believe in. I always believed in the Constitution. However, there should be just one Constitution. There should be one set of rules, not rules for Black people, not rules for white people. We need to make sure that the rules and the bills that are being placed, that they're followed by all people. People should not be able to and we should not have people in strong positions where they can determine our life. And bills are passed so that they can have an impact on our lives. We don't want people to say, well, listen, as a woman, I think that you don't shouldn't have any ambition. I think that all women should be treated equal. All people should be treated equal. So that if you're paying someone, a man, $10,000 to do a job, it doesn't mean that when a woman takes over to do that job, that she should only make $1,000. I happen to know through my work history, um, a lot of times I know I was being underpaid and doing a very good job, or knowing that my partner or the person who I'm sharing this responsibility on a job, if he's a male, should he make more money than me? And I just know that I'm retired. However, through my work career, I do know that it was very extremely difficult. I think women today are still fighting an upward battle. However, things are so much easier. I mean, if my children were sick, I could not stay home to take care of them. If I wanted to do anything, affordable health care was not that easy for me to get access to. And I did what I had to do. I got through this process. However, I think that women should be able to go to work. They should be able to have affordable childcare. And these are the things that we need to make our representatives know about. We need to make sure that there's affordable health care. Here in North Carolina, we don't have Medicaid expansion. So there are so many people in this state that are underinsured or not insured. And we need to make sure that our legislators know that we need for them to fight for us with for affordable health care. We need to make sure, and beginning this month, I think there's a cap on, not think, but I know there's a cap on insulin, so that a person who is dependent on insulin, and that's something that a diabetic will have. So if you are a diabetic, know that there's a cap now on insulin of $35 a month. So some people were going to Canada. Some people were going to other countries to get their insulin or get their medicine because the the drug companies are being have brought out our politicians. If you go to a doctor and they put you on a certain medicine, always ask for samples. Don't go and engage and spend all your money on the medicine and then find out that it doesn't work for you. So why do we have new medicines? Because the drug companies go around to the doctors and they give them samples and they encourage for people to go on these drugs. One of the things that I'm a diabetic, and one of the things that medicines that I was on and I'm still on, my doctor is supplying me with samples until they get Ozempic back in the fields. Now, my husband being a veteran and a wounded veteran, I get my medicines through the VA. However, what I've been finding is that these medicines and these drugs that the doctors have hooked me on, and when I don't take them, I feel different. So I have to take these drugs. They, my VA insurance is not carrying them. Every time I go to order a drug, a lot of times they're telling me it's back order. Um, I had to go get a new machine to test my sugar because the company that I'm using for my test strips, they're no longer producing them or selling them or giving them away. Not giving away. They're not supplying them. So these are the things that you cannot sleep on because they have a direct impact on your life. Drugs, unfortunately, they have managed to give them to us. Then when we don't take them, we're not feeling good. And then we have a lot of people who are not taking the drugs because they can't afford them, or they are rationing themselves for and with these drugs because they're stretching them out. And the doctor doesn't want you to do that. So what do? Hopefully 2023 will help us to get more affordable drugs that, and even get off of drugs, but you can't take, again, I would never take that chance. I'm taking my drugs because, and it's not drugs, it's diabetic medicine, hypertension medicine. And again, you want to make sure that you have access to your medicine all the time. Now, if you have not gotten the vaccine, it's important that you know 1 in every 13 people are suffering from long term COVID. So, say if you walk into a supermarket and you look at the people who are there and you count 13 people, one of those persons are suffering with long term COVID. And the symptoms for long term COVID is that your energy is basically minimal. Maybe your smell never came back. And maybe, there's just a lot of things for you can suffer with long term COVID. So it's not a joke. It's being identified as something that is there. And if you're suffering with it, just know that you're not alone because 1 in every 13 people have long term COVID. Now, one of the bills, one of the things that we also want to speak about is how do you get information? Now, we know that a lot of information is very subjective, and you'll go and you'll look at the Facebook and you'll say, oh, if Facebook says it, has to be true. If Twitter says it, it has to be true. If Instagram says it, it has to be true. And that's why it's so important that you get your information from multiple places, that you look at you go online. There's so many things that you can be doing to make sure that you get good information. So I noticed that around election time, I had people on my Facebook that I didn't know who they were. I had people making friend requests of me. And before I would say yes to any friends, and I don't take on any new friends at this point. So don't ask to be my friend on Facebook because if you're not there already, I do not, because I can't trust it. I can't trust that the information that is coming across on social media it's good information. And it's just as subjective as it has been, because we know that it's just subjective. We know that when you look at the news on TV, on cable channels, that sometimes, even if you're involved with the story, the way they present the story is how they want you to receive that information. And so, again, do your homework. I'm so turned off to so many of the news channels, only because I just know that this is very subjective. This is not giving me the whole story. And this is what they want me to hear. So, again, this is 2023. Happy New Year. Okay. Want to stay healthy for the new year. Again, people who survive COVID, um, it doesn't mean that it's all over for all the people. You can't think that, it's okay to have COVID, and it's not. But you can live with COVID. You can live and be amongst people and be safe. And that's what we want to promote. We want to promote safety so that we can make sure that all the people who are around us, we keep them safe. And you can't say that people aren't getting COVID anymore, because over this holiday, I had several calls or conversations with people that told me, "Oh, this family member now has COVID. This family member now has COVID," and it's not okay to get COVID, because again, you don't know if you're going to be one of those people of the 13 that have received that have long term COVID. You don't want COVID that never goes away. And you sure don't want to die from COVID, because, again, people are still dying from COVID. You need to get your flu shot if you're going to be out and about. That's one of the things that I'm going to do, because I think I might do it before I go home, because I don't know. Calvin has a cold. We don't know if the cold is going to escalate. So we want to make sure that we as a person, you as a person, you do everything you can to stay healthy and to help those people who are around you. Now, again, stay awake, stay woke, listen with a third ear, see with the third eye. Always read between the lines to make sure that the information you're getting is valid. Okay. You hold elected officials accountable, and you watch them. You watch how they put bills out there, and how they get passed, and who is voting on those bills. It's important, because we know that all the Republicans did not vote on certain bills that were put there on the floor. They did not support them. However, when a party has majority, they they can override the people who are not voting at all. A no vote is a vote. Okay, it says a lot. And that's why it's important that you continue to watch your representative to know exactly how they're voting or not voting. Is this bill something that can have a direct impact on your life? Is this a bill? These are the questions. You got to be awake politically. There's no time right now than ever that to say you are involved with politics. Okay, we don't want to rule that politics is something that um, that we don't want, because we do want politics. We do want to be aware, and then when you go to voting, you know how you're voting. All right, and you know what's going to be having impact on your life. So again, use your 5 caller app. Call your representative. It's very just download it on your phone, and it's very important that you do what you can to get your voice heard. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person who is sitting there, that your congressperson, that they're going to listen to you, because number one, if they got voted in, then they have constituents. Okay, because we do know that elections were fair, and we do know that people they are able to get these bills and these laws passed. So again, Stay tuned because, again, the insurrection that we're going to have an anniversary for. Um, we're going to have an anniversary for this insurrection. That this could have been just a test run because the orchestrators are still out and about doing doing the thing where we have these election deniers. We have election deniers in our public agenda in our Congress. We have election deniers in Congress. And it's important that they be held accountable. And if you just read and I'm just trying to get myself through this, the insurrection, it talks about that in the Constitution that anyone who participates they're in a public or in Congress, then they should be impeached and removed from that job. And we need to make sure that they were so big, and we have like a Congress that is not, to me, you have people who did all kind of things, and yet they they're still there in office. So so again, we need to get some bills passed. One of the things that was taken away over a year ago was the Build Back Better bill, which did not pass, that allowed and gave families income every month so that they could use that money for everything that they wanted to use it for. And it's important that we get people again who are going to support us. Now, if a person, candidate comes to you and they say, "I would like your vote, I would like to get elected," look at their past, look at how they voted, and just because they have a name out there, it doesn't mean that they have done enough to earn and to stay in position for you. So again, this is News and Politics Today with Renee Boston Hill. We are here at Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. And I did ask people to join me. And because I tried to, and I'm not trying, I am doing this, I'm doing the show solo. So Awesome Radio has allowed us to have this voice. But again, you can call me and talk to me directly if you want to have a conversation on topics that we speak about. And we just want to make sure that we keep our eye on the prize, make sure that we stay awake, make sure we stay woke. And anyone trying to tell you that they're anti wokeness or awakeness, just look at them with keen eyes because they're trying to do things that they want to do based on the fact that you have not, just based on the fact that you have said that this is the things that you want, and they have their own agenda. Anyone saying don't read between the lines, read between the lines. Anyone saying you can do, to do certain things. Anyone saying that the insurrection was just a little party, know that that was a test run and they could come back and do that again. And that's why it's important that, again, we fight for our democracy. Right now, the midterm elections showed us winning for democracy, and we want to make sure that everyone is held accountable. And again, I'll be back here next week, Monday, and we will be doing our show, News and Politics Today, with Renee Boston Hill. So, all righty. So we continue. Again, you can download the Constitution, which will support the things that I'm speaking about, how people who are election deniers, how people are not being held accountable are in places of very importance. Congress gets to make the laws for us that we have to follow, but the laws should be produced and put out there for everybody. And that's very important. Constitution. You get Okay, so news and politics today with Renee Boston Hill. We'll be back Monday. Awesome Radio.
Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the hosts, any guests, and speakers, and do not necessarily reflect